people who have claimed asylum, people who are here legally. He is stripping away, yes, he is, their citizenship and their status. He's stripping away their status, their humanitarian parole and TPS, and trying to deport those people too. And so it's one thing to message the American people, okay, we're going to deport violent criminals, and that's all that we're going to do. And I think the vast majority of Americans would be on your side. Nobody wants violent criminals. I don't think we want violent criminals here in the United States.
I don't know.
We don't. I'm telling you right now, Scott.
You let a bunch of...
Hey folks, welcome to the Second Take channel, where we watch CNN so you don't have to. On Wednesday night's episode of NewsNight with Abby Phillip, Scott Jennings joined the discussion once again. He stayed calm, provided the facts, and made the rest of the panel seem insignificant. During a live debate about Trump's highly talked about bill, concurrent with the House floor vote, Jennings skillfully avoided pitfalls and corrected outright falsehoods. He successfully showcased why straightforward conversations make the left uneasy. So, let's jump in as we watch Scott Jennings skillfully dismantle a group of liberals trying to convince America that Trump's tax bill is somehow harmful to working-class individuals. Let's go!
Right? Audits for the rich are getting cut, but 87% of audits are still for people under $200,000. People see this as the crock that it is, and is a reminder for people that the system is rigged against them.
Is this a warning sign?
Well, first of all, they're going to leave this vote open all night if necessary. They've got 4 no's right now. A bunch of the Republicans haven't voted yet, so they will leave this open and open and open until they get there, I think, is what I'm hearing from the House floor. That's number one. Number two, to put your name up in lights at this point as a Republican, to say I'm the person who's stopping the president's agenda, that's a thing. And so, this is where he has had success in the past, and where Speaker Johnson has had success in the past. When the president engages and he puts his shoulder to the wheel, they have had success in getting close votes over the line. They're not going to amend the bill. This is what it is. They voted, the Senate voted, it's back. And the whole project here tonight is to pass this thing as is by the president's intended deadline of July the 4th.
Regardless of what's in it? I mean, I think that's really the, I think you're right.
It's 90% of, the House bill, what they will tell you is about 90% of what they sent over came back to them. So it's not a wholesale change,
right,
but there were some changes.
My point is that as a country, we've been in this place where there's been a lot of growth. If you take out the pandemic, right, there's been a huge amount of growth. There has been nothing done about spending. This bill does nothing about reducing, about the fiscal picture. It does nothing about that. And so now Republicans are saying, well, let's just, growth is sort of like the magic wand. Growth is just going to fix all the problems. And there are many conservatives who are skeptical of that argument, because it just seems like a great way to brush away any concerns that there might be about what's really in here.
Well, it's not a spending bill. It's a reconciliation bill, and it's largely just about taxes. They're keeping the tax rates and keeping them from going back to the pre-2017 levels. They're also adding more tax cuts for working class Americans. They're also investing in the southern border. They are doing some welfare reform. But at its core, this is about taxes. And as Shermichael pointed out, if we allow the tax rates to expire and we have the largest tax increase in American history, we will not have any economic growth, I can assure you. That would be bad for economic growth. So the president's view is, I'm doing what I can do on tariffs and at the executive branch. You guys keep the tax rates low, and you add tax cuts and tax breaks for, no taxes on tips and the other things for working class Americans and for senior citizens on Social Security. That will fuel the kind of growth that, if coupled with restrained spending in the future, would allow more deficit reduction.
Which you build into your assessment about dynamic scoring versus static scoring, which was the premise of my point.
Sometime in the future.
This bill is a deal with the devil. It explodes our national debt. It militarizes our entire economy, and it strips away healthcare and basic dignity of the American people. For what? To give Elon Musk a tax break and billionaires the greedy taking of our nation. We cannot stand for it, and we will not support it. You should be ashamed.
Democrats, as Hakeem Jeffries said, are united. We don't have to guess about that. They are, in fact, united, because I think they see the politics of this crystal clear, as we've been discussing.
Yeah, they've got to get all 10. So there's 10 Republicans that haven't voted, just looking at it here, and they've got to flip one of those 4 in order to pass the rule. Another thing I think that's going on behind the scenes, in addition to the taxation and Medicaid conversations, is the immigration conversation. My guess is one of the persuasion tactics being used on the outstanding Republicans here is The White House believes that this legislation and the investments in border security, the investments in ICE, the investments in, the overall situation that Trump ran on, which is deportations and securing the southern border. I mean, that was a big part of how Republicans won the last election. So apart from the economics and apart from the healthcare conversation, there is an immigration conversation and a border security conversation going on in the background that I suspect is heavily persuasive to some people.
But meaning that they're just being urged to think about what's already in the bill as being important to them, because the bill is loaded up with
the conversation would go something like this. Voting against this means voting against the president's agenda when it comes to border security and deportations. Do you want to go home and tell your Republicans and the people who elected you and the president that you stopped him from doing what he said he would do? It's a hard thing.
It's so interesting because that's working both ways.
I just couldn't help poking fun at my audience with that AOC clip to show how shockingly naive she can sometimes be, which is kind of scary when you think about her being an elected official. You might wonder, come on, James, aren't you beyond that? Shouldn't we be beyond that? Why label her naive? So, let's dissect the clip we just saw. She took to the House floor to claim that Trump's flashy bill is simply a move to make Elon Musk richer. Billy, if that's not a misguided statement, I honestly don't know what is. Trump and Musk aren't exactly pals at the moment. What's even more frustrating is how AOC completely buys into her wild assertions. Apparently, no aide bothered to update her on the DNC talking points she gets regularly, which are now about 2 months old, stuff that even MSNBC has moved past. As I've said in earlier videos, I don't have a problem with Republicans who have real reasons for their opposition. Expressing thoughts and addressing genuine concerns is one thing, but there's a lingering question I always have, and it never seems to be answered. For the Republican members trying to block Trump's important and ambitious bill, if you manage to stop it, what's the plan after that? I can somewhat answer that since we already know what happens next, Americans would face a $3.5 trillion tax increase over the next 10 years. Scott mentioned this, but the issue isn't just about taxes. Trump's whole approach, including trade, tariffs, bringing manufacturing back home and boosting the economy, hinges on this bill. Economic growth flourishes when people can keep more of their money. That's why this bill matters so much. So, if it's canceled, what's the backup plan? That's what I asked the Republicans attempting to derail it. Sometimes it appears less about principles and more about nonsense. All right, let's move on.
Stand by for us. This is a live situation happening on Capitol Hill right now. I want to just bring it in to Scott Jennings, who I know you're in close touch with some Republicans on the Hill. What's going through their minds right now?
So a few updates. Hearing from the White House that the president is fully engaged right now and on the phones. He's been on the phones since 7 o'clock this morning and in meetings. Also, the White House political team is up on the Hill right now working with the members who haven't voted yet or who may need to change their vote. One other sort of thing that's floating around right now and that they want to remind Republicans of is that, it was reported today that the president has a $1.4 billion war chest at his disposal for the upcoming midterms.
That sounds like a threat.
And he plans to be fully engaged in the midterms, and I think he plans to be fully engaged for people who support his agenda. So that's on the executive branch side. Let me just give you a little bit of color from the Hill. So one member of Congress says, "It's not over till it's over. I've seen this movie before." Another tells me, "I think we'll get there, maybe a few more hours." So I think there's some cautious optimism in some of the people I'm hearing from. And make no mistake, behind all that is the president and his team right now reminding people exactly who the leader of the party is and that this is his agenda.
Yeah, that will work for the people for whom Trump is a big factor in their district. But as Lauren was pointing out, someone like David Valadao, Fitzpatrick, those are folks who...
That's two. You can lose.
You care a lot about the national park system. He's proposing a $1.2 billion cut to national park system. That's the most in the 109-year history of national parks. More specifically, 20 people are being laid off on the Mammoth Cave National Park in Kentucky. 30% of Kentuckians are on Medicaid. 200,000 are going to be losing their Medicaid. 35 hospitals in Kentucky receive disproportionate Medicaid funding, and so they're going to be at risk. And 10% increase in utility bills Kentuckians are going to see. I think when you hear that, I think you're going to care a lot more than just hearing hyperbolic statements from Democrats.
Well, in the Senate, they added a rural hospital fund, $50 billion. And so the states like Kentucky that have a lot of rural hospitals, and we do, are going to be able to access that money to help offset what might happen. I don't accept the projections on this, number one. Number two, it is not unpopular. It is not unpopular to invest in ICE It is not unpopular to give this agency what it needs to deport violent criminals. It is not unpopular to make sure illegal aliens are not getting welfare. It is not unpopular to take able-bodied Americans who are not doing anything, who are choosing not to work. It's not unpopular to say, we're not paying for your welfare when we're asking everybody else to get up and go to work. These are popular provisions, as is no tax on tips, as is keeping the tax rates low. You keep talking about the popularity of the bill. Individual provisions are exactly how Trump won the national popular vote. It will work if they run the play.
I don't usually like to toot my own horn, but my latest uploads are showing that I might really have a talent for this. Take that awkward AOC speech I shared with you. It's a perfect example of left-wing ridiculousness. Most people would agree it was a solid video. Watching the entire thing is definitely worth it. Just when you think it's all over, there's more to uncover, like the stuff with Dan Company. You know how I always say Democrats love to treat rare incidents as if they're everyday occurrences? That's exactly what Dan Co did. He tried to pin Scott Jennings down with a supposed funding cut affecting Scott's state, hoping to catch him saying, "Oh, now I don't support the bill." But that attempt fell flat. Dan Co really did his research to try and get the upper hand on Scott. However, targeting Scott on Kentucky issues is not the wisest move, since Scott is considering a Senate run there. Scott responded calmly and directly, explaining that the bill actually includes a $50 billion fund for rural hospitals, which would greatly benefit states like Kentucky. So Dan's broader story wasn't true, and even his specific example was shaky. Dan, I normally don't offer advice to Democrats, but watching this is getting rough. Until you base your arguments on facts and not just feelings, you won't get far on this show. This episode was quite different from the usual, right? The Democrats went into a frenzy, spread false information, and Scott Jennings flawlessly took apart each misleading claim with evidence and grace. AOC can talk endlessly about billionaires, but facts are facts. This bill protects hardworking Americans, encourages growth, and lays the groundwork for Trump's economic strategy. Now, I'm going to say something significant that I don't think I've said before. The left just can't compete with this, so they create distractions. Just kidding, I say it all the time. What do you think? Are Republicans who don't support this bill making a huge mistake, or are they staying true to their spending values? Did AOC's speech seem as outrageous to you as it did to me, or am I just biased? Share your thoughts in the comments. Anyway, I'll end this video here. I know in my recent videos I said there would be no lengthy announcements but ended up chatting away. So, no announcements today. And I'm definitely not going to urge you to do all those things other channels ask, because I said I wouldn't. So, forget about me reminding you to do what other channels often request. Like right now, you'd expect me to, right? So, let's not focus on that. Otherwise, thank you for taking a few minutes to watch my video. Always remember, Jesus loves you. Catch you later. That's a wrap for this video. Any support like subscribing, activating notifications, or sharing means a lot. Since I started asking for your support this July, you wouldn't believe how much it has helped this channel grow. You all are the heart, the backbone of this channel. Thank you so much. As always, I truly value the time you spend watching my videos. I know your time is precious. Always remember, Jesus loves you. See you guys.